This is Border Battle with King and CJ. With King.
You want to go get a hot dog at halftime? Well, guess what? You can also take the under in the second half of 25. You know what I mean?
And CJ.
You can win Super Bowls right now with me and Grandpa Brady over here. Let's do it that way.
Special guest producer of Bullet Broadcast, Brian Shrull. Presented by the fine-tuned faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY, OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jordan the Great King and CJ the Viking Notch.
Welcome back in here to Studio 318 in the beautiful Paul Miller Journalism Building. Thank you, Landon. We're here at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle. I'm King. He's CJ. You can listen to us, OSU Student Radio KXZY, YouTube Live. That is Border Battle On Demand. Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. We have the link posted to our Facebook page over there, or Suddenlink Channel 112. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get started today, a couple things on my end got to get right. Chris and I both do a lot of work off camera to strive to get the facts of everything right. I got a few things wrong on Wednesday. I owe Chris an apology because Minnesota women's hockey also is very well represented on this Olympic team. So apologies to him for that. Wow. I don't need a response from you.
Oh, you're getting one there.
And then also, I teased at the end of last show that the OSU women's tennis team would be up in Wisconsin. Unfortunately, they did not qualify for the ITA Indoor Championships. It was on their schedule. That's why I saw it. I saw it was in Madison. I said, well, I'm from Wisconsin. I went to Madison. So that's the connection that made me throw that in there as a tease. They did not make it. Apologies for that as well. But first of all, had to get the apology into Chris because obviously that got me a little heated up there. My some of the issues I had with your
hockey comment.
So, Chris, we're going to talk today. Trade deadline yesterday. It was probably the most entertaining hour and a half, 2 hours in the last. Was this more entertaining than like the first half of the Super Bowl?
I think so.
I think it was.
It was just, if anything, the funniest part was watching the Cavs because the Cavs were like imploding. And to me, I thought it was funny because they just squeaked out a win in overtime against the Timberwolves. And then the next day, there's like, well, LeBron's like, all right, let's get rid of them. We got the last win with them. Let's show them what winning's like. Now let's ship them off. We're done. It was comedic.
It almost felt like the house was on fire for Cleveland the entire time. And then you look at the other side, and Cleveland did a pretty good job with all these trades after all the dominoes had finally fallen. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to talk about what was the biggest trade that Cleveland made, and were all these trades enough to vault them back into contention in the East? And I mean like being favorites in the East, not just contention, obviously. Can they now? Is it clearer for them to win the East?
I still don't think it is. Because really the same thing. It's like when you started it, you're blending people in. You're trying to get people accustomed to playing styles. You just brought in, I believe it was, 5 new guys?
4 new guys.
4 new guys. They all have to learn now how to play within the LeBron James system, so to speak. Let's put it that way. I don't know if it makes them the favorite as well. The best one, and it's probably what everyone's favorite in a sense, or best deal, really is probably the Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye one for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance. You get younger. At the same time, like the rumor says, they actually helped the Lakers out quite a bit with this trade. But that would be the best one for me, but I don't think they'll be the tops in the East.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it makes the Lakers, it gives them a better shot at LeBron next year. They were sounding like they were going to have to push off their free agent acquisitions to 2019. That's now expedited. They're going to be back in the free agent running for the lottery for LeBron James and Paul George and everyone that's up here now in 2018. So I think this affects the Thunder. The Thunder are big losers in this because I think now Paul George, unless you somehow make like a Western Conference championship run, I don't see Paul George sticking around in Oklahoma City anymore. I think he bolts for LA, and LeBron I think also does that. But here's the thing from the Cavs perspective. Yes, they maybe made it easier for LeBron James to bolt after the season. They also made it a more attractive team. I said this last night. LeBron was not going to stick around for the crew that they had in-house. There was for sure not. I don't think there was any way he was going to stick around. Now, where does he go? That's the question. I don't know if there was a clear place for him to go. But that roster was not good enough to warrant having LeBron James stick around.
Right.
So you had to make the roster better. They did that. They made it younger. They made it more athletic. They made it more competitive for this playoff run, and they're going to make it. They made it more competitive for future playoff runs. So whether you let LeBron James walk or whether you're able to somehow retain him. By the way, you also have like a top 7 pick next year because they held on to the Brooklyn pick, traded their other first round pick. That was huge. So now, no matter what, if LeBron leaves, they're already ahead on a rebuild, and I think this is a great trade for both sides because yes, now the rebuild is over for the Lakers. They have to finish out this year, and then next year they're going to have 2 stars come, and they're going to be immediate contenders in the West.
Right.
But it doesn't put the Cleveland Cavaliers in the same spot that the Lakers were. I think that's what a lot of people think. LeBron's going to leave, and the Cavs are going to be the new Lakers. I don't think so. I think the Cavs are going to be ahead of the Lakers because they have that high pick. They still have Kevin Love in the locker room. They still have veterans. And even if they let him walk, these guys are young enough, but like George Hill, Rodney Hood, they have experience in the league. Right. It's not like they're just rookies and guys that have never played before. Like these players were playing significant minutes for their respective franchises. So I think that's important to remember as well.
And I think it'd be interesting to see, let's say if LeBron does leave next year, if the old Kevin Love comes back. You know, like the one that we saw in Minnesota for years on end, a double-double machine. Does that old Kevin Love start to come back? I know he's not the same player he once was. He's slimmed down a lot. He's worked on his three-point shot. But that, it's an interesting take. Another thing, too, with the Cavs, they got rid of all, like, their biggest injury bugs. Like Thomas was still coming off his whole hip issue. Derrick Rose hasn't been the same since he blew out his knee. Dwayne Wade is, he's just got the age. He's just slowing down. But yeah, even with the graphic that we see here down on the screen, for the guys that got in and that they got rid of, how can you not even call Cleveland a winner in this trade deadline? With they didn't give up a lot really.
No, you look at the out column there.
Right.
Who are you sad to lose? No one.
Yeah.
Because no one provided no one provided both sides of the court value to your team. Isaiah Thomas, statistically one of the worst defenders in the last 20 years. And, oh, by the way, all he did was create problems since he got there. He comes after the coach, saying they can't make halftime adjustments. They can't make any adjustments. When it gets tough, people just scatter.
Yep.
Okay, who is the first one that plays bad defense, that can't make adjustments, that's not willing to change his game for the teammates around him, which LeBron James has done for the last 20 years? Isaiah Thomas. He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't play good defense. He doesn't change his game. If there are scorers around him, he doesn't want to start passing the ball more. No, he just continues to shoot. And a shooting point guard needs to be on a team that will let him be the ball-dominant player. So I think for the next 6 months, however long the rest of the season is, 4 months, yeah, cool. Go ball out in L.A., and maybe someone will pay you at the end of the year. It's not going to be the Lakers. Right. They don't want you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, with Isaiah Thomas. When he first, he was leaving Cleveland, the Boston Celtics, everyone's like, man, he's coming out for a big payday. I mean, it's like the past 9 months, he went from the top of the mountain, now he's at the bottom, wondering what happened.
Yeah. Well, and the thing you have to worry about with Isaiah Thomas is there must be something about him that makes him not – he's been traded twice in the last 9 months.
Right.
There has to be something that says we don't want to build around this guy. Maybe it's the fact that he's a 5'9", undersized, shoots too much point guard that doesn't play defense.
Who knows? Like you said, I think, and that's probably the biggest thing for a lot of GMs. What are they getting out of Isaiah Thomas? Like you said, are you getting the toxic, locker room guy? He also called out Kevin Love. He was the guy, with the whole illness. Was it real? Was it not? Which I was like, I don't know why you would do that in the first place. Like I'm all for a guy in your locker room being outspoken and loud, but at the same time, it's like you have to know when to bite your tongue. Like,
yeah.
Like, what are you trying to? Are you trying to blow up your best chance of winning a title right now?
And here's the funny thing: the night before he gets traded, he says, "I'm sick of being traded." Yeah. Well, then maybe. By the way, you asked to be traded from the Suns. You asked to be traded from the Kings, and then just because Boston doesn't want you because you aren't someone they wanted to pay a max contract to, and Kyrie was, they traded you away and got better. Cleveland just traded you away and got better. Is there not a trend here, Isaiah Thomas, that you're not seeing? You got to change your game, or you're never going to be a guy that's going to get a max contract. Period. End of the story.
Right.
So I think Cleveland did well for themselves here. Yes, if they lose LeBron James, that's a big deal. But I don't think it's the end of the world anymore. I think if you lost LeBron James with the current team and you're like the biggest decision you have is to keep or trade or let go of Isaiah Thomas, your franchise is in trouble.
Right.
Now you get Larry Nance, you get Rodney Hood, George Hill. These are all good quality young players. Jordan Clarkson averaging like 16 points a game. You have all these guys coming in. You can start building around that. Do you have a bona fide superstar? No. But that also means you're not going to have to pay a bona fide superstar. So you can have more of these middle to upper echelon players like Clarkson, like Hill, like Hood, who aren't the top of the hill, but they're quality players.
Right.
And you can start to build around them. Maybe you get a star in this year's draft. Maybe you get a bona fide star to build around. Then you can start to go rebuild in that way.
Right, yeah, and like you said too, what team, when you're the Cavaliers at the end of the season, which team would you rather have to deal with if LeBron left? The one that they did have, or this new one? I mean,
exactly.
You don't want to deal with, you got Wade, who's either, now he's with the Heat and all this, but the roster they had was going nowhere. When you have, I think it was like the oldest roster in the league, or real close. They probably were right there up with maybe the Thunder or someone, but. Yeah, it's crazy where, how much changed in the span of like an hour and a half at the end of the trade deadline.
And people thought it was just like freaking out. These are stupid trades. They're going to regret all this at the end. And then the dust settles a little bit and you're like, okay, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I think they actually did pretty well for themselves. If LeBron James leaves, that's on LeBron James. And I think that was the message from the Cleveland organization was, look, if LeBron James is going to leave, that's on him. It's not on us because look at what we did at the trade deadline. We brought in a new and revitalized our organization. If LeBron doesn't want to be part of it, that's on LeBron. So this was brilliant because now the onus is on LeBron. The fans don't blame you because you actually tried to improve your roster, and in my opinion, you did improve it.
Right. And I will say real quick before we have to hit break here shortly, another fun trade, I guess, for me was the fact that Dwayne Wade is now going back to Miami. I think it'll be interesting to see if he ends this year or not.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Maybe the end of the career coming for him. But we're going to catch a break. When we come back, we'll have Brian Shrull, producer of Bullet Broadcast and 2017 Sportscaster of the Year. He'll join us in studio to talk another up and down week for OSU basketball. Plus, stick around a little later. CJ and I will get you caught up on a busy weekend for the rest of the OSU athletics. You're listening to The Border Battle on KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. Welcome back in. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King. He's CJ. Between us, we got Brian Shrull, producer of Bullet Broadcast, another great show that is produced in this same studio, and 2017 National Sportscaster of the Year.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
We got you in here. We're going to talk some OSU basketball. Big one coming up this weekend at West Virginia, Chris.
Yeah.
I guess, what do you think about this weekend, both of you? I'll pose this one to both of you. What do you think about this weekend? How big is it? Is this a must-win at West Virginia?
Well, I think it is. I guess the thing with what would be interesting was last time they played West Virginia, there was 48 total fouls called. Granted, that was here in Stilley. I'll be interested to see kind of what West Virginia, how things go against Morgantown. Morgantown's always very hard to win, especially like OSU always seems to have trouble going there and winning. But I don't know. I think they just got to come up firing and actually play 2 consistent halves instead of 1.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem in the last couple games has been that they come out strong the first 5 minutes or so. They'll hit some threes, get the game going. Their defense will be strong, and they'll kind of be pressuring the ball. And then they just fall off. Something happens in that second half of the first half, and then after halftime, then it's some hump that they aren't able to get over, and then they get behind, and they're trailing and just trying to catch up.
Is it an inexperienced thing to you, or is it just guys that are not focused for 40 minutes?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the inexperience and the focus kind of play a part together. I mean, after the Baylor game, Boynton was saying in his press conference that free throws have been a huge part of late game situations. They've missed a lot of late game free throws, and he attributed that to the focus. And I think part of that might be the inexperience, just not knowing how to keep that focus, how to keep that intensity for the full 40 minutes that they're not necessarily used to playing.
Yeah, so not to jump around, but I'm going to. To go quickly back to the Baylor game, obviously they shoot 7 for 15 on free throws. The Cowboys, 46%. They let Baylor shoot 54% here in GIA, of all places. You know, what is something Boynton's probably saying to his team after the loss? Obviously, as a player, you can't give up, 54% shooting. But as a coach, what do you say?
It's tough because I remember back when I played in high school and those late game situations, it was always about having focus and having intensity when you're fatigued. It's about playing when you're tired because anyone can play well at the beginning of the game when they still have fresh legs and stuff. But it's about playing at the last 5 to 10 minutes when you're tired, when your legs are wanting to give out. You've been playing hard for 20, 30 minutes already. You got to keep up that intensity. You have to keep that focus, deep breaths, just calm down. Don't try to play too fast because a lot of, especially that goes back to the inexperience, a lot of younger players, the game starts moving and they just try to keep up with the pace, try to keep on moving fast. Calm down, slow the game down, make the game come, you don't have to speed up for it. You can slow it down. You can just
Control
be in
the
your
tempo.
spot. Yeah, control the tempo.
I think that's something that's so difficult to do. I'm a Wisconsin fan. Wisconsin, one of the best teams under Bo Ryan, able to do that. And young players is when that starts to shift. And by the way, West Virginia, one of the best teams in the country as far as speeding you up. They're going to press you for 40 minutes, and it's going to be a 92-foot game, 94-foot game. And if you're not willing to step up and step into that role, you're gonna struggle. Now, you told us off air, this year's Oklahoma State team looks a lot like TCU's team last year. What do you mean by that?
So, going into last season, TCU was projected to be, by the coaches, projected to be the last team in the conference. Well, they went with a new head coach. They went on. They didn't make the March Madness tournament. They had a couple big wins. They beat number 1 Kansas in their second to last game of the season. And then they went on and swept through the NIT. They won every game. They won the NIT. This year, Oklahoma State projected to be last. new coach, big win against Kansas, big win against OU. I'm sitting here. It's hard not to compare the two teams. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of new players. They had Jalen Fisher. We have Kendall Smith. Different. He was a freshman, grad transfer and whatnot. But there's a lot of similarities. So I'm trying to figure out, is it better for this young Oklahoma State basketball team to push for March Madness, but if they don't make it, that's okay because they can go make a deep run. And look at TCU now. After that deep run in the NIT, they're doing well. They're going to make the tournament this year unless they just absolutely fall off. So I don't know if that experience in the NIT would be a benefit to some of these guys.
Yeah, I think that's part of the things that a lot of people forget. Programs that you have to take steps as program. Very, very few programs take leaps. So I think that's something to consider.
Yeah, real quick, we're talking about tournament stuff. So obviously we have key wins over Kansas, at Fog Allen. Then we have OU here in Stilley, and we had Florida State back when they were ranked in Sunrise, Florida, early on in the season. So if we beat number 19 West Virginia tomorrow in Morgantown, and then when Kansas comes into Stilley, if we beat them, does that give us a chance to make the tournament, or do you think it's still, or is this one of those things we have to win out no matter what?
I don't think we have to win out. So when looking at March Madness, a lot of people look at the team sheets, which are based on the RPI. So you look at your RPI versus other teams, and they fall into different quadrants based on whether it's home, a neutral, or away side. So looking at the remaining schedule, West Virginia is a quadrant 1 because they're 24 in the RPI. And then Kansas is a quadrant 1. Texas, at Texas, home against Texas Tech, at TCU. Those are all quadrant 1. If you win 3 or 4 of those games, that's big because they only have 3 wins right now in quadrant 1. If you make 6, 7 quadrant 1 wins, that's huge. Now, I don't think they need to beat Kansas and West Virginia if they can also go to Iowa State, go to TCU. They can get those wins, still win at home against K-State. If they can get those wins along with the win against West Virginia or Kansas, then I think they definitely have a shot of being in.
Yeah, look at the rest of their schedule. At West Virginia, home Kansas State, at TCU, at Texas, at Iowa State, Texas Tech home, Kansas home. You look at those wins, and like you said, Texas Tech home, Kansas, West Virginia, those are all winnable games. You got Kansas and Texas Tech at home, and then you have to go on the road for 3 of those quadrant 1 games. West Virginia, TCU, Texas. Those are going to be tough games to win. This is where looking backwards, and I know you always preach to your team, never look backwards, only ahead. But we have the privilege of not being on the team, so we get to look backwards. When you look back at Baylor, when you look back at Baylor, when you look back at Texas Tech, Texas Tech, we should have quadrant 1 win over them. We should have a win on the road in Lubbock. And if you add that to an already resume that goes to Lawrence and beats OU at home, you're already probably a bubble team at this point. And a bubble team, then if you go out of your last 7 games, if you go 4-3 and beat the right teams, you're in.
OSU wouldn't be RPI 107 right now if they had gone to Lubbock and won that game. Right now, for any other team on Texas Tech, you look at their team sheet, OSU is a quadrant 3 win. A quadrant 3. You're not going to make the tournament if you're in that quadrant 3 for other teams. So that would be a huge win. And that was, a late game situation, not finishing strong. So it can go up and down. Right now, according to Joe Lenardi's first 4 out, the next 4 teams that are on the bubble, their RPIs are 35, 56, 55, and 57. So
a lot of work to do.
OSU's at 107. A lot of work to do. But every game coming up, their RPIs are all lower than OSU. So they're all good wins based on where they're at right now.
So give me out of a scale of 1 to 10, confidence scale, where are you at with this team as far as making an NCAA tournament?
I would say, I'd say about a 6.
That's interesting.
I'm not too confident, but I think there is a chance because of they've shown that they can play with the big boys.
Yeah.
They've shown that they know how to hit shots. They can be a very good 3-point shooting team. Against Kansas in that win, 12 threes made. Against OU, 9 threes made. Against Baylor, both times they played them, 5 threes.
It's a difference.
If they make the 3-pointers, they're right there to win the game.
All right, Chris, I'm going to pose the same question to you on a confidence scale of 1 to 10.
And that just from where they're at right now, not going potential wins that they may get, just right.
No, I mean like with
rest
this
of the season,
with this remaining schedule, where do you see them?
I'm gonna say actually a 7. I think if they can especially get a win in Morgantown and then even keep it close against Kansas, even if they lose, but basically if they can win every game but Kansas and they barely lose to Kansas, I think they have a good a shot as any of kind of the teams on the bubble to potentially get in. But so I go to 7 with that.
I think if they win 6 out of 7, I think they're 100%.
Oh, I agree. I don't think they're going to be able to beat West Virginia, Tech, and Kansas. I don't think they'll even be able to win 2 of those 3 games. I think if they win one of those games and then win the other games, then they have a good shot.
Well, I'm glad you guys are on the show because I am apparently a pessimist with this group because I think, you mentioned the 3-point shooting team, they are a good 3-point shooting team. I worry about the reliance on the 3 and if it's too much reliance on a 3. So I'm between a 3 and a 4 on these guys. And again, that's probably a little too pessimistic because like I said, I don't think Texas Tech is like a transcendent team. Like, are they the 7th best team in the country right now? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I buy into that. So I think them coming to GIA I think Oklahoma State has a legitimate chance to win that game. But Kansas, I mean, they're outside the top 10, or they're 10th now. If they have one more slip up before then, there's no way they're going to come in here laser focused. And that you don't want a laser focused Kansas team. The only thing is, if Kansas has a Big 12 title wrapped up coming into the last game of the year, Oklahoma State could maybe sneak one past them if they're a little unfocused, looking forward to the Big 12 tournament, stuff like that.
Maybe. I think Bill Self, though, is not going to let OSU beat Kansas twice. I think his pride alone, he's going to make that team ready. No matter if they have the title locked up or not, I think he cares too much about his pride against other Big 12 teams.
There's something about Bill Self when the calendar hits 3. Like when it's in March, Bill Self, Kansas, Tom Izzo, Michigan State, those programs turn the corner to something different. So I think you have a point there, although I'm excited to see what a March looks like under Mike Boynton's watch because I think he's a quality coach and I think OSU's lucky to have him and just be careful because he's won some big games. He might get poached away here. I don't want to put that seed of doubt in, but I'm just saying he is a quality coach and he's going to be sought after. So we got to take a quick break. When we come back, it's another installment of Ticker Topics. CJ and I will get you caught up on what we got caught up on today. That's next. This is OSU Student Radio. This is The Border Battle on KXZY.
Hi, I'm Gina Noble, and I'm the mayor of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stillwater, Oklahoma is anything but still. We are a vibrant community, and we are conveniently located near Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Wichita, Kansas. We're the home of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we serve as the cultural, economic, and athletic hub for North Central Oklahoma. In fact, several Quality of Life magazines have recognized Stillwater as one of the nation's 100 top places to live and one of the best places to golf. Established in the land run in 1889, Stillwater is a safe, vibrant community. It boasts a great educational system from K through 12, all the way up to our world-class university, Oklahoma State University. We have an exceptional downtown with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, numerous city parks and trails, and our medical resources are second to none. Stillwater is a wonderful place to begin your career, to start a business, to raise a family, or to retire. We invite you to visit Stillwater because we are anything but still.
Think you're not involved in your community? Think again. Spending your money with local businesses is more than an economic choice. It's a way you can have a say in the look and feel of your hometown. This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
CJ, across the island from me, Chris, we're watching some highlights there of Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, as they call him. This is the ticker topic segment. We're tackling all the headlines we might have missed. Obviously, yesterday, this was a storyline that a lot of people missed. It got a little bit lost in the shuffle with all the trade deadline stuff. I tend to think this was a John Lynch genius move. I think he actually was trying to throw this out there and say, all right, we're about to make a guy with 7 career starts, the highest paid player in NFL history. Let's throw it out there while Cleveland's self-imploding, as everyone thought.
Let's just hide it.
Yeah. So I think he just kind of threw it out there. Oh, by the way, we're paying him $137.5 million, 74 guaranteed. Let's throw that out there now. What do you think of this deal for Jimmy Garoppolo? Again, 7 career starts, although 100% career winning percentage.
That's exactly what I was going to point to. His last 5 starts for the Niners, all wins, and they're all good wins, good team wins. He showed that he can, stand in the pocket. I think it's great. It's good for both sides. Lynch made a phenomenal decision with that. As long as and Shanahan's a great offensive coordinator and coach. I think he's going to groom Garoppolo into something big, and it helps. I mean, let's not take away from the fact he was under Tom Brady for his first few years in the league. I mean, you can't take that experience away. I'm sure he has learned a lot from Tom Brady. In 7 career starts, I would give him the same contract as well.
Really?
I would.
Interesting, because I tend to agree with you. A lot of people are saying, well, you're resetting the quarterback pay scale, because now this means Cousins is going to get paid a lot more. This means Matt Ryan's going to get paid a lot more at the end of the year. This means Aaron Rodgers is going to get paid a lot more now. Like, Rodgers if he's looking at this, he's like $27.5 million a year. I might be worth 40. Like, and he's not actually worth 40, and he won't take 40. But if you get these guys, they look at this and they get money signs in their eyes as well. One thing I will say about Garoppolo, you mentioned playing under Brady. Being part of the New England Patriots organization for whatever it was, 3-4 years, is invaluable. Bill Belichick teaches you how to win. Josh McDaniels is teaching you how to run an offense. Brady is teaching you how to win and do it all and do all the right things and take care of your body the right way. Although maybe to his detriment, I don't know if TB12 is something you really want to be following. Anyways, but you're right. He goes now to the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant young offensive mind in football, and I think he and Lynch have this organization headed in the right direction. So it's not an overpay to you.
No, I don't think it is, because I think he deserves it. Yes, I get people are cautious because he only has 7 starts. You really don't know what he's going to show. It was towards the end of the season, or where other teams just kind of coasting their way through. Some of the teams he's playing were playoff teams, but it's like they're still quality. I mean, you get a winner of the Jaguars, who I can guarantee were not just coasting. And he, like you said, he diced them up, like a cheese grater type of thing.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned cheese. Let's go to the NFC North. Does this worry you as a Vikings fan? Because now by the way, you got to sign a quarterback here. Does this worry you that he's getting so much money? Do you worry that now the Vikings are limited in who they can sign at quarterback?
I wouldn't say limited. I think if anything, it makes it harder with the whole Kirk Cousins thing. Because I don't want to say limited, because Kirk Cousins already was going to have the high price tag as it was, because that's what he wanted.
Right.
So I think if anything, it's kind of just the same thing. Because if you're just looking at Kirk Cousins, like you're like, okay, it doesn't concern you. Now, if it's someone like, I'm trying to think of who else would be on the market. I don't want to say Case Keenum, because Case Keenum's not going to ask for that type of money. I would hope not, because he's not at that level.
No, but the argument becomes, no, he's not going to ask for that money. But now does he ask for more money because that's what Garoppolo is getting paid?
Right. And the thing is, though, too, you see it now. Teams are kind of hesitant because you got one good season out of Keenum. You still don't know there's no consistency yet. And you can say the same with Garoppolo. You don't know in 7 career starts.
Let me play devil's advocate here. You talk about the small sample size for Keenum of success. Small sample size of success for Garoppolo as well.
Right. No. And that's exactly what I'm saying. That's why it's like a double-edged sword, this whole contract, because it's either going to make John Lynch look really good or it's going to make him look really bad.
Yeah, something I like about the 49ers is you have a young GM, a young coach, and a young quarterback. You pair them all up. The thinking is with this, 15 years from now, could they be looking back on us as the next New England? Right? Because it was Kraft, Brady, and Belichick. They went through for about, whatever it was, a 15, 18-year span together. Now, if you can get the same thing out of Jimmy Garoppolo, I really like this move. I think it's aggressive. Yes, you're probably paying him a little bit more than he's worth, but as Matt Miller, the NFL draft scout, said, you pay quarterbacks for what they can do, not what they could do.
Right.
That's why people are getting so bent out of shape that he hasn't been in the league. You get paid for your current skill set and your current ability. Right. So that is something I think was interesting.
Then real quick, so we can get on to the next topics here. I also think as a person, it's good to show, you're showing Jimmy that, hey, we have faith in you. We want you here. We're not going to lowball you or something. We want you to be here for a lifetime. We want you to be a 49er for life. We want you to, to go on this journey with, Lynch and Shanahan. Like, we want it to be a 3 thing, like you said, maybe the next New England.
Right. Well, let's move on here. Another topic that I think a lot of people missed. I almost missed it.
You almost missed this?
According to the Associated Press, and ESPN reported this as well, University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents approved contracts for Paul Chryst and his 2 top assistants, that being offensive coordinator Joe Rudolph and defensive coordinator Jim Leonard. This is interesting, and let me give some background on this. 2 times, the Badgers have lost coaches to either assistants not getting paid enough money or to admission standards. I think admission standards was something that Gary Anderson kind of pointed to, although he said my assistants aren't getting paid enough. You got to up that. Brett Bielema, he left simply because his assistants weren't getting paid enough, and you saw how that worked out for him, unfortunately for him. But I think this is actually a big deal because, by the way, you lost your 2 Justin Wilcox, and the defensive coordinator before that, who is now the defensive coordinator at LSU. You lost both of those guys because you couldn't pay him enough. And now you get Jim Leonard, first year, a top 2 defense, them in Alabama, and then a long space, and then the next best team. That's how the defenses were this year. And so to keep Jim Leonard, give him a raise, give Paul Chryst a raise. The offense was solid. I don't think it was outrageous, but yeah, you want to keep Joe Rudolph, get the continuity in there. So I like this from the UW Regents. I was a little surprised when I saw this, by the way.
Really? What surprised you so much about just the contract that they gave him, or what?
Well,
was so
it hasn't been reported what he's going to get now. This was just, you have to go to the Regents because obviously these are state employees. Yep. You have to go to the Regents and say, hey, we want to amend their contracts. We're not going to give him. Chris was set to make like $3.3 million in 2018, and they say we just had a historic season. We want the permission to negotiate a new contract with him. So that's what this is. And I was shocked because, again, in the past, the Board of Regents has said, no, we're not going to give you more money for your assistant coaches. So
then let me ask you this. Is Paul Chryst finally going to bring home that elusive national championship to Wisconsin? I mean, Minnesota has 7 of them already. Granted, Wisconsin
really?
has 3 unclaimed, so to speak. But, are they finally going to bring one home so they can compete with Minnesota and actually say, hey, we actually have a legit championship?
I didn't even know that Minnesota had a state championship.
Yeah, they had 7 national titles.
When was that?
1904.
I was going to say,
1935, 34, 35, 36, 1940, 1941, and then 1950 was our last one.
Dynasty.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. Bernie Bierman, coach back then for when he got
Legend.
Hey, for Minnesota it is.
Give him a
He got
contract
5.
extension.
Well, unfortunately, he's not alive anymore there, Jordan, so thank you for that. But I get it. It was a figure of speech. I get it. But still, I'm waiting to see Wisconsin hang up a national banner. Minnesota, we got 7.
What about banners? Just because we haven't gone, like, Oklahoma.
What do you guys have? Ooh, we have the axe record right now. We got the rivalry.
That's fine.
You'd rather have that over national championships?
Well,
Wisconsin football there for you,
We've had it
people.
for 14 years. I mean, look, if you're proud of if you're proud of national championships, some of which happened over 100 years ago, fine. I'm good with that. Have it. You can have them.
Well, thank you.
Wisconsin won the national championship for basketball in 1941. I could care less about that. As far as I'm concerned, Wisconsin's never won a basketball national championship.
You just care about the present? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying if you're not relevant now, I don't care about your past.
Wow, man.
I'm saying I want relevance now. How does the history of a team that I never got to watch, how is that supposed to help me? How's that supposed to make me feel better inside, Chris?
Because you can say the team you cheered for and grew up rooting for actually has championships.
That's fair. Minnesota has better football history than Wisconsin.
But maybe we should get to our last little topic.
Yeah, Darvish getting a lot of attention here. A lot of money getting thrown his way. Reportedly, the Brewers are actually involved with this, and their offer is supposedly still on the table, but he reportedly declined $110 million, an offer from an unnamed team. Is he being too picky with money right now?
I think so. Unfortunately, I never really watched a lot of Darvish. Personally, I felt like he's not as good of a pitcher anymore. Like he had the hype to him, but I feel like he's really lost that. So I don't know. Like, yes, he's being too picky, but is he actually worth that? That's the bigger question now. Like,
I think it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to figure out which team actually was the one that offered that. Was it the Twins? Was it, who knows if that'll ever come out, who actually offered him that, but.
Yeah, I think you'll kind of get a feel for who offered what a little bit later down the road. But at this point, I think you can't really be, beggars can't be choosers. Look, no one's getting signed for the price they want you. You might have to settle for $110 million, just like everyone thinks is a settlement. So we got to take a break. We'll be right back. OSU men's basketball isn't the only OSU team with an important weekend. Some other winter sports hitting a crucial part of their seasons, and a couple spring sports getting going. We'll get you updated on all of that next on the Border Battle on KXZY.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past.
Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis.
You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
To our neighbors and friends, we come to you today to let you know what's on our hearts. Because you're the reason what we do is so much more meaningful than a job. The reason we believe in the power of investing in tomorrow and the power of community. So this is simply thank you. As we step boldly into a time of growth and change, consider this our promise that every investment in our hospital is an investment in our communities.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318. You're listening to the Border Battle. Sunlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, or KXZY, Oklahoma State Student Radio. Chris, a highlight there that I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans are hoping they start to see in a few weeks. That's when the first home women's softball game is. They're actually playing right now. Should be actually wrapping up pretty quick here. They're playing against Oregon State, according to Oklahoma State's schedule, so I don't know if this got changed. Against Oregon State in Tempe, Arizona. Tempe, Arizona, a spring training place. That's where they start their season, interestingly enough. But as I said, going into the break, this is an interesting weekend. It's a fun weekend. You got wrestling playing, a couple meets this weekend, and let's see here, including OU, so a Bedlam meet. Men's tennis, Northwestern University tonight at 5 p.m. at home, and then also hosting number 1 Wake Forest on Sunday, so a big weekend for them. We talked about the ITAs that the women did not make it to, but weekend off for them. Softball plays again tonight, 6 p.m. against Arizona, again in Tempe. Wrestling Edinburgh tonight, and then, as I said, OU Bedlam on Sunday. A lot of stuff going on here. Which excites you the most? By the way, women's basketball playing this weekend as well at Iowa State. So which of these intrigues you the most?
Well, obviously basketball does, just because I think we have a good chance, to make the March Madness, make the tournament.
Women's basketball?
Women's basketball, basketball. But not to get too far ahead, I know we want to kind of stay in the winter, but like to me, the softball team is what's really exciting for me, is because they think this team has a chance to go pretty far in the tournament, come towards the end of the spring. I that intrigues me the most. Unfortunately, right now, it looks like they're actually losing 6-2 to Oregon State. From what my scores show, again, is that fully accurate? I think so. It's from their website. But yeah, to me, it's softball.
At least they're playing. That's what I'm happy about.
Yeah, but that's what intrigues me most is the softball team right now.
Yeah, and obviously baseball also getting going here pretty quick. I think their first game is also end of February, early March, somewhere around there is when they get going at home again. So it's a fun time. You get to merge kind of an overlap of these sports. Obviously, men's golf. If that could have been a ticker topic, very well could have been a ticker topic earlier in the week. Last weekend, they went out to Hawaii, won by 17 strokes over the next best team.
Which was a Big 12 team. I believe it was Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, which is crazy. Like 17?
Yeah, and after day one, they were losing by a stroke to Texas, UT. So, the good weekend for them, obviously. I think the women's golf team, 10th ranked Cowgirl Golf Squad beginning the season today, I believe. So it's all getting going here, and it's a busy time in sports. And for my money, you look at like mid-February when all of a sudden like the conference races in basketball, college basketball start heating up. OSU is lucky enough to have a very relevant women's team. All of their spring sports are contenders in some way, shape, or form, and it's a fun part of the year for OSU fans. You can't debate that. Like this is one of the best parts. I like your take on the softball team too, because I think 24th and 20th in various polls. Shippy, a couple different awards she's up for, and we'll get to a couple women's basketball awards in a second. But I like that take that the softball team could potentially make some noise come late in the season for them.
Yeah, and I think just as a whole, to give credit to the fall sports, this whole year at OSU has been exciting for every single sport. Even when the football team, not to get too much into them, but, all the excitement that was up around them with Rudolph and Washington and crew, to even now, the women's basketball team, even the men's, they've been pulling off great wins against OU and Kansas, like we talked about earlier with Brian Shrull. So, it just keeps going. And maybe, now in the spring, we had our ups and downs, fall into the winter. Maybe this spring we can all of a sudden say, hey, look, we're champions again. Cowgirl soccer was the conference championship, won it this fall. I mean, the sky's the limit right now at at Oklahoma State.
Yeah. I think maybe the football team not quite as successful a season as they maybe wanted, but still, by a lot of program standards, a successful season. I believe 10 wins at the end of it after the bowl win.
Yep.
So you get all of that. I want to mention a couple Oklahoma State women's basketball players. Lauren Goodwin been added to the Wade watch list. So the Wade Watch is its 41st year of this. The Wade Trophy is the oldest and most prestigious Player of the Year award, according to OklahomaState.com. So she's been added to this. So National Player of the Year, potential honors for her. I think she's just about running away with the Big 12 Player of the Year. You'd think she leads Oklahoma State in points and steals as well. So she does it on both sides of the court. So I think that's exciting. What do you think about her as far as her importance? Obviously, a grad transfer. Interesting story because she's played at 4 different programs throughout her career now, and OSU being the final one. And she's made a big impact for the Cowgirls.
No, she totally has. I know even in their last game against TCU, she racked up her 40th career double-double, which says a lot about who she is. But to quickly go off on, the best player in the Big 12, her competition is her own teammate, Kaylee Jensen, in a sense. I mean, those two, the amount they push each other, and you can see it even in games, it's like, oh, you can do this, well, I can do that, which is a good thing to have. You want, as long as they can coincide together, which they've meshed very well. And I think actually Goodwin's helped bring this team to where they're at. It gave Jensen less pressure. Jensen, when you can have someone out on the wing shooting and then your post players, it's sky's the limit.
Yeah, we just saw the graphic pop up there. Kaylee Jensen selected as one of 10 finalists for the 2017-18 Senior Class Award. So class stands for Celebrating Loyalty and Achievement for Staying in School. That's a senior class award. She's one of 10 finalists for that. We had the graphic up there. You can go online. Fans get to vote for this, according to OKState.com, and it's www.seniorclassaward.com. www.seniorclassaward.com. They're encouraging fans to vote through March 19th. So this is our way of saying go vote and select Kaylee Jensen. Obviously, as a senior, what a leader she is to this program on and off the court.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we already you kind of touched on that, but the duo of those two, like I said, you and I called that game last week against Kansas last weekend. I think you look at the freshmen. It's pretty incredible what they've been able to do between Braxton Miller and Jaden Hobbs. Jaden Hobbs was my player of the game from last weekend. She hit 4 for 5 from three-point land and made some huge threes for that team against Kansas. They won 92-63. I think the balance they have between two outstanding leaders who are both rightfully finalists or being recognized in some way for their contributions to the team on the court and off the court is well deserved for this team. So you talked about women's softball. We're hoping to talk a little men's baseball coming up here. We're trying to nail down maybe a guest for that. Where does this baseball team stack up as far as the spring sports go, like as far as your excitement?
I think it's right up there as well, because you look back actually at last spring, they weren't predicted to do real well. They went into the Big 12 champion, into the conference championship, and then ended up winning it. Sure, they didn't have a good showing in the actual tournament, but to be the eighth seed in the Big 12 tournament and to go on and win it against Texas, I think the sky's the limit. And I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but I feel like for both, all these spring sports, softball included with that, there's so much room for opportunity and growth. Holiday is a fantastic coach here. We're really blessed with the best with a lot of the coaches we have throughout all of OSU sports.
The reason you're saying the sky is the limit with almost all of these spring teams is because it just about is. You look, there is so many dominating wins. When you look across the board, just look at the last week. You have, now it sounds like softball is not doing great and baseball hasn't gotten going yet, but you get the men's golf. We talked about that 17-stroke win. Women's tennis, pardon me. They get the win over Florida.
Number 3 Florida.
Yeah, I don't want to like forget about this because they get the comeback win over number 3 Florida 4-3. I have Cameron Jordan's article about this that he wrote. He was covering that one. This entire spring schedule, you could see multiple national champions.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't really surprise anyone, would it?
No. And that you even brought up another one. We have yet to talk, track and fields coming up, and they're always consistently very good towards the top. You know, it's like there's so many sports that are so good, you don't even know which one to actually talk about because they all deserve the time to talk about them.
Yeah. You know, Cam even says here, sure, the Cowgirls have a long way to get back to championship contention, but Wednesday's victory was one of the best things that happened in the program. And this is a pretty successful program to begin with. And we're talking about wins that are all, you know, we talked with Brian. Programs have to take steps. And this is another step for them. All of these spring sports are so successful. And we're going to try to get beat writers in here to talk about these teams, because I think in the shuffle, you get done with football season, that's always taxing, like even for fans, like how emotionally invested they are into that. And then you have your two sectors. You have the emotionally invested into the basketball team, and you have the almost manic obsession of wrestling down here, which I think is awesome. We've talked about that before. And you get through with all of that stuff, and I feel like people are just like ready for a break. Don't take a break with these spring sports.
Right.
Don't do it. These are some of the most successful programs at this school, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to pay attention at least to what's going on here with Oklahoma State, because I don't think people realize. You know, they say, "Oh, well, we can never get over the hump in football against OU. No one can beat Kansas in basketball. Blah 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 blah." You get all of that. I understand it. But you also have to realize how lucky you are with some of these, what a lot of people would call non-revenue, lower tier, not fun to watch sports. I think that's a load of garbage.
Right.
You know, even the women's basketball team, you don't hear about them nearly as much as the men's team or wrestling or football. And I think that's a disservice to the program, because they're an incredible team this year. And if you have a chance to go watch them before the season's over, I'd highly recommend doing it. Going over to GIA for number 7 Texas coming up here next week. That's something you should definitely do if you don't have anything going on. Get over there and watch these teams, because these programs are incredible.
They are.
And, I went to Wisconsin before this, and yes, they have some successful non-big sports programs, but I don't think it's anywhere near the success that Oklahoma State has, and how blessed the fans are down here to have it. So that's my little rant to the fans to get out and watch this great program. Well, thanks for joining us. We got to go. Have a great weekend. We'll be back same time Monday. We recap the weekend in sports, including all the sports we just told you about. We'll recap all that stuff. Plus the Winter Olympics getting going. Join us Monday for updates on all of that. For CJ, the great crew we have around here, I'm King. You've been listening to The Border Battle on OSU Student Radio, KXZY.